All right, so the Bricks and Minifigs situation has taken yet another turn. Now it's coming out that Bricks and Minifigs permanently closed their Salem, Oregon store after gross negligence from the previous owners. This would be the store in question, I believe, that took the Lego sets on consignment, and then they went missing, and the whole drama began. Do I have that right?
So what's interesting is, this is the people I think that owned the store were the ones that were like calling the cops, I think. And then now they're closing over gross negligence. But before, the CEO was backing them up, like, oh yeah, we don't have policy there. You don't have to do this. And now the CEO is saying, oh, we're gonna make sure that they get their toys back or the money for it. I thought you didn't have documentation. Even though in the last video I did, he slipped up. Oh, you need to provide documentation. And then followed it with, but we've been finding some of the stuff that they're missing. I'm like, well, why would you find stuff they're missing if you had the documentation?
Right. So, look, this is basically a company that is on fire right now, and they're trying to save their own asses however they can do it. And if they have to throw their franchisees under the bus to do it, they'll do it. They got to lie, they'll do it.
They got rid of the franchise owner that owned that location before they put these people in.
Yeah, I mean, this whole thing is like, I cannot follow everything that's going on with this. This is turning into like Chris Chan levels of what the hell, and the documentary that is eventually made about this.
I joked that they'd make a movie or a documentary about this. I did, and they probably totally will, and I'll watch every minute of it.
Well, there's gonna be a lot of minutes. It's probably gonna be like a 12-hour manifesto whenever this thing is put to bed. But this is the latest as we understand it. And again, there are other channels out there that are covering this in much, 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 much more detail than we are. But we're going to fill you in on what we know so far. We'll back it up a little bit for those of you who aren't familiar with what's going on. 404 Media actually breaks it down in nice bite-sized chunks. But you're getting about 5 to 10% of the whole iceberg here, just so you know.
Lego Gate?
Lego Gate. Yeah.
Is it Lego Gate or Bam Gate? I don't know.
Bam Gate. Like Bam Gate. Bam Gate's pretty good. So before we get into it any further, please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. You'll get woohoo if you do.
Woohoo.
If you'd like more Clownfish TV, go out to more.clownfishtv.com for more Clownfish TV episodes and podcasts you will not find anywhere else. And also, if you'd like to listen to the audio version of the podcast, go out to Spotify, iTunes, iHeartRadio, wherever you find podcasts. Thank you very much for that. So yeah, this is the latest development. As we understand, this is after the Patreon CEO came out and told Bricks and Minifigs to stuff it, literally told them to stuff it because they were trying to get him to take down, or get Patreon to take down Reckless Ben's page, because they were like, well, you're bankrolling harassment. Reckless Ben being the YouTuber who's been a huge catalyst in this whole thing. Deserto has a tweet. Bricks and Minifigs is parting ways with Brandon Best and Joshua Johnson due to a devastating social media campaign. Basically, the internet is fixated on this, and you guys are looking really bad. They say they have reached out to the family that owns the $200,000 Lego collection to return it and offer compensation for any missing items.
Which they could have just did in the first place.
That would have been the smart thing to do, because I guarantee you Bricks and Minifigs has had more than $200,000 in damage to their business and their brand. And I don't know if they're going to come back from this.
Because they kept trying to argue. Oh, well, because that franchise owner made the deal. And it's like, yes, to a point, but it's like, you kicked them out from my understanding. He said they fled the country. That's not how I understand it. I could be wrong though. Anyway, they're like, well, they're the ones that stole their stuff. Like, well, you still had the stuff. Like, I don't understand. Like, why is it so hard to just not, because if it was consignment, that meant the store had it.
Yeah. Do they have it?
I don't know, because that's the thing is, they kept calling it consignment. If it's consignment, that means the store keeps it on property, and they're the ones that sell it, and they take a fee and then give you the money. And then, but if you sell it to them outright, then which you should have just sold it to them outright, then you could have gotten the full amount of money. So consignment would imply that they have the merchandise, kind of like what they did with Diamond, where they had the merchandise in the warehouse, and when they'd sell it, they'd get theirs cut, then they'd give a check to the person for theirs, that own the merchandise. That's what consignment means.
And this is going just about as well as Diamond. For those of you who don't know, Diamond Comic Distribution was the biggest comic distributor. They folded, and they held on to a bunch of, the new owners are holding on to a bunch of consigned merchandise, and then they were trying to sell it out the back door to pay the debts.
To pay their debts, even though they don't own the merchandise.
They don't actually own it. They're just, distribution. And so that's a whole fiasco too. But yeah, consignment's pretty dicey. Like that whole situation is you have to trust whoever is selling your stuff for you to be on the up and up. And Bricks and Minifigs, I know people complain they were expensive, but I don't think their reputation was trash. I could be wrong. There are a lot of them. There are like 300 of these stores. So anyway, and apparently they're prepared to discuss dropping the lawsuit, which will probably involve just, here's some hush money, go away, because they're businesses.
If you go back to that other post you were on before, his statement is next to it. The tweet you had, his statement was in the other tweet right there. Go the picture next to it. That was what basically.
So this is coming from is this the CEO?
CEO, I believe so.
Okay, so this is Amon McNeff, is that his name? We've been asking for documentation for a long time. We asked Mr. Mansell, who is the guy who had the Lego set, right?
Right, yeah, Brian Mansell, yeah.
And others, and did not receive enough to give us a clear picture until recently. Thanks to internal. Go watch the 40,000 hours of YouTube videos. Thanks to internal and external operations assistants and those who continue to stand with us, and we finally have enough to proceed with the resolution. Now that we do, Brian, we continue our offer to sit down with you and are prepared to discuss dropping the lawsuit against you. Let's go through the spreadsheets and POS data, point of sale data, or piece of shit data, depending on who you ask, together and ensure you're made whole monetarily and ensure that whatever Star Wars Lego was or remains in the Salem store, whether you identify as yours or not, you can have it. We will ensure you are compensated for anything unaccounted for, including what Ms. Law Gorman failed to compensate you for. She would be the previous franchisee, and then that's the whole thing. We're ready when you are. Well,
wait, he submitted that they had it. Whatever you had, whatever Lego Star Wars is left in the store.
Yeah, and they were like, we don't have it.
He said, you're made whole and ensure that whatever Star Wars Lego was or remains in the Salem store, which implies that his Legos were in the store.
Yeah, so let's go out here and try to back the back the bus up a little bit. The very short bus that is Bricks and Minifigs. 44 Media is trying to break it down. There are many videos about it.
When we say it's a multifaceted thing, this one is. Oh, yes. And real quick, the police body cam footage, there was different disputes, and the police body cam footage was accidentally released, accidentally in quotes, released. And I think they thought it was going to help their case, but it actually just went down worse. And then the next day, he's like, yeah, we got the documentation now. Let's make you whole. After the backlash from the videos happened.
Yeah, this is interesting. This is coming from 44 Media that hasn't really been following it too closely, but they said, I'll try to be brief so you can at least tell your friends, hey, did you hear about this insane Lego shit? And you can laugh or cry. So he said, this is what's going on, I think, also massively abbreviated. When I said, this is not even 5% of the iceberg.
It's a saga. It is a saga more interesting than anything Hollywood is putting out.
And, it's crazy. So this is their bird's eye view. Bricks and Minifigs is a chain of independent Lego stores that has a series of franchises around the country. Right. Yeah, there's like 300 of them. A thing that at least some Bricks and Minifigs stores do is consignment. In 2023, a man named Ed Mansell and his son Brian asked a Bricks and Minifigs store in Salem, Keyser, Oregon, to sell their collection of Lego bricks, which, according to the store itself, was worth over $200,000. The store began to sell the collection, but then the owner of the franchise changed hands and was taken over by Bricks and Minifigs corporate. So the owner was the Law Gorman lady, and she wasn't paying her, as I understand, she was not paying her franchise fees, and as a result, she defaulted on the store. And then they took over. That's my understanding of it. I'm sure people will tell us in the comments if we're wrong, but that's my understanding. At this point, Brian attempted to either get the unsold portion of his collection back or money for the collection. Brian apparently was told to pound sand. So I would have concerns too. If I had hundreds of thousands of dollars of stuff on consignment, the store changed hands under dubious circumstances, I'd be like, I need to get my stuff out of that store.
Right. And if you have a paper, like if you have an agreement, which I can't think anybody would give $200,000 of Legos without one.
Yeah, here, just keep my stuff.
It's easily proven.
Yes. Yeah. Well, they were claiming they did not have paperwork or whatever. I'm like that
I
just does
doubt
not
that
make sense.
highly. No one's going to do that on a handshake deal. And if you did, you kind of deserve it then.
Yeah. Any kind of consignment deal has some sort of paperwork attached to it. If you go to a pawn shop or whatever, there's some sort of paperwork. Brian contacted a YouTuber with 1 million followers named Ben Schneider. This would be Reckless Ben. Reckless Ben made a series of YouTube videos, starting with the hour-and-a-half long I tracked down the thief who stole $200,000 of Lego, which currently has 4 million views.
Damn.
Schneider basically did a whole series of wacky but funny things to draw attention to the matter, which included putting a giant sign on a shuttered Bricks and Minifigs store, or on the shuttered Bricks and Minifigs store in question that read "Permanently closed. We stole a family's life savings. They sued. We lost. By closing the store, we got out of having to pay the family what we owe them." Bricks and Minifigs claims that the store was instead closed temporarily because our staff, including local teenagers, faced severe real-world safety hazards, targeted in-person stalking, and explicit bomb threats driven by viral videos. Both things may be true.
That it doesn't say it can be true, because it wouldn't even be necessarily Ben who did it, but people would totally do that, thinking they're helping, and that does not help. You just gave them a leg to stand on.
Yeah, that's my understanding that whole situation led to more lawsuits. So it said there are various other things Schneider did in the video, which includes starting a company called We Steal From Old People, which are possibly funny, but also not necessarily relevant. Schneider also set up a GoFundMe page for Brian, who's the Lego owner, former owner, which has currently raised $382,000. As part of this, Reckless Ben went to Bricks and Minifigs headquarters in Utah in March, as well as the home of one of its executives.
That was what the body cam footage was released for.
Yeah. Schneider was arrested by American Fork, Utah police and charged with stalking and targeted residential picketing. I would not have done that.
No. See, some of the antics, I think, were questionable. And I said in the other video, too. Some of the antics were questionable, which actually, in turn, just gave them more ammo against you.
Because and what they've said, and I did pick up on that, what they said was they were suing him or trying to get him arrested or whatever, but they said he was harassing them and causing damage and stress and defamation and all that to their business. If you're going to somebody, I mean, as funny as it is for a YouTube stunt, going to somebody's house like that when people are getting shot and killed, people that
it was not the right way to go.
It's not good. People are getting swatted. We just covered an attempted swatting on a grandma. Like I'm just saying it might be funny to watch on YouTube, but it could have gone south. What if one of those guys just came out and like blew his head off or something because he was on their property? You know what I'm saying? Like this could have gone south. Local news reported he was also separately arrested in American Fork on charges of disorderly conduct and criminal trespass. After Schneider's video came out, Bricks and Minifigs got pissed at him and has posted 2 different very long blog posts about the incident that the company says has required them to process a massive wave of online chaos. No shit. I think I think their business is cooked at this point.
Or you could have just given them back their stuff to begin with. I mean, I don't know. They just thought they were above it. They thought that they were going to get away with it because they're them and they're the big guy. And let's see what you're going to do, pissing at, that kind of thing.
The company basically says this is a big misunderstanding, that Schneider's videos are unfair, that its employees are now getting harassed, and that the Lego bricks at issue weren't actually worth $200,000 anyway. Yeah, they said that they were. So that's where the whole thing gets weird too, because now apparently they have the guy on a podcast or something from a couple of years ago saying that he thought his collection was $80,000 to $100,000, not $200,000.
Yeah, but price goes up depending on demand. It could have been only $100,000 then. Plus, it was a couple years. Oh, he turned in a couple years ago. So I don't know, but stuff's going to go up. But if he has the proof of the paperwork of what it's worth, and if you can sign it 2 years ago, that doesn't mean the prices didn't go up. And he's been fighting for how long to get it back?
Okay, so understandably, Schneider has turned this response, that'd be Reckless Ben, has turned this response into additional content, which has also gone viral. Then this week, body cam footage of Reckless Ben being arrested by American Fork police was released and is being poured over by the community. The American Fork Police Department also quite possibly create a brand new YouTube channel to release an extremely bizarre 30-minute YouTube video filmed in a facsimile of The Matrix's The Construct Void Room about the arrest that simply must be seen to believed. The police do not come off looking good in any of this.
No, they do not.
It's clear from the body cam footage and the entire thing, the police have handled all this terribly. And then they reached out to Patreon. They were trying to get Patreon to take down Reckless Ben's page. And I know Jack Conte was like, no, that's not going to happen. Which good on him. But I'm also like, where were you when other creators were being pressured into taking stuff, having their accounts yanked down?
Well, this one has a lot of, people watching it. It could bite him in the ass, so.
Then Bricks and Minifigs sent a cease and desist letter to Patreon asking them to take down Reckless Ben's Patreon.
Gosh, how much money do they spend on lawyers when they could just give the guy's money back?
Yeah, you're going to spend more than $200,000 on lawyers, right? I mean, seriously. Where he's been posting further updates and early access to future videos about the saga behind the paywall. Okay, so he's got extra stuff behind the paywall. So Patreon CEO filmed a hostage-style video about this takedown request and said that after an extensive review, we've determined that Bricks and Minifigs can stuff it. We're keeping Ben's page up, and if Bricks and Minifigs doesn't like it, they can sue us, Patreon, out.
Damn.
And this is like the fallout. Who cares? Again, I'm glossing over much of what has happened. Oh my God.
Yeah, but there was police videos released, and it did not look good for them, the way it was handled. And at the one point they're talking to the one officer. Well, the one officer was like they're making jokes about the paperwork. And then there's another one, I didn't see all the video, but like the guy, the CEO gets on the phone and is like telling the officer stuff. Now the officer did say, like they're in two different sides, but I didn't see all of it. But yeah, it did not look good. And they were calling them douchebags and stuff like that. And he goes, oh, I should have said that and stuff. So that did all happen. But the day after that got released, then all of a sudden, oh, you know what? Let's sit down.
Let's sit down and talk about it. So that brings us to, look, it was a very whirlwind overview. Now they do mention in the 404 Media article that this happens a couple times a year, that usually there's like some big mainstream coverage of YouTube drama, including, they talked about Boogie. I don't know if you remember Boogie, where somebody showed up at his house and he was going to shoot him. He had a gun. That's what I'm saying. Like, if you show up at somebody's house, even if it's a ha-ha stunt or whatever, like, there's a genuine risk, not just to the person living there, but that they could shoot you. Yeah,
see, and I said this last video too. Doing those kind of things, you just can't do that kind of crap, because that is going to get you in trouble, for one. And two, if you are legitimately trying to help the person you're trying to help, doing that kind of stuff is actually going to hurt them more than help them.
Yeah. I think in this case, though, I think all of this is going to... Bricks and Minifigs is going to have to change their name if they want to stay in business. I don't think anybody's going to do business with them after this. I think it's like, oh my God. Even if somehow they're in the right, or at least partially right on this, and it was just blown way the hell out of proportion because of the YouTube drama and the internet drama, their brand is so damaged. When somebody Googles Bricks and Minifigs, it's going to come up all this
well
stuff.
That's true.
They
were
stole
saying that
from an old man. Yeah,
franchisees that weren't any part of the situation, they were getting harassed in their respective stores in other cities and stuff. And like I said in the last video, it's not their fault.
No.
They might have that. They have zero to do with it, because like in this case, corporate took over the store and made it 100 times worse.
So this is where we're at right now. They're closing the controversial store in question permanently. I guess they shut it down as this was going on. And again, this is the one that the owner of the collection consigned his collection to, and then the person who ran that store at the time ran into financial problems and had the store yanked from her, as I understand it. Now corporate runs that store, then they shut it down, they're saying, because of harassment. But now
they're saying gross negligence from previous owners. Does that mean the person?
God.
That means
so they're blaming the
woman.
Yeah, but gotta blame a woman. So this has come from Deserto. Bricks and Minifigs permanently closes.
She might be partly at fault, because she didn't give the money back.
She had the right paperwork.
She should have settled it before she left.
This should have all been settled before she left, and something like that, $200,000, that's almost $250,000.
If I knew they were taking it from me, I'd be calling the person up and being like, hey, by the way,
get your stuff out of here.
Because I don't know how much time I have, so they kicked me out of here, so come get your stuff.
Yeah, and I think that and that's why he was kind of scrambling. Or it could have been a case of like she was out the door, he didn't know until after the fact. It might have been like, set it and forget it, I dropped my collection off. Well, that's what I think
it was. Like he probably didn't know until after the fact.
All right, so this comes from Deserto. Bricks and Minifigs permanently closes Salem, Oregon store after gross negligence from the previous owners. BAM have officially parted ways with franchise owners Brandon Best and Joshua Johnson, as well as permanently closing their location in Salem, Oregon. So apparently these are the people that took over after the other person bailed. The authorized Lego reseller quietly shared the news on a blog post, revealing that the decision was the direct result of a devastating social media campaign alluding to YouTuber Reckless Ben. The post also, so they're going to use that as ammo in court. They're going to be like, well, it was so bad that we had to shut that location down.
Well, they're saying they're trying to settle now. So
the post also stated the investigations into the matter uncovered significant evidence of gross negligence by the Salem, Oregon's store's previous owners, including operational gaps during the transition and the subsequent management of document recovery. Basically, we don't have a paper trail of this transaction. We're saying, who knows? According to the post, BAM personally reached out to Brian Mansell, that would be the owner of the Legos, the original owner of the disputed Lego collection, and came to a mutual and positive resolution. So now, okay, so BAM says the deal between Mansell and the previous owners of the Salem, Oregon location struck an unauthorized and private consignment side deal that predated Brandon and Josh's ownership of that particular store. So, okay. So
yeah,
what
but if you buy the store, you still have a deal in play. You have to resolve that first.
Yeah, because when you're buying a business, 9 times out, it depends on what it is specifically, but 9 times out of 10, you're assuming all their debt, all their contracts, all their legal obligations. Now, there is some wiggle room. Like I know I talked before, I had a guy I worked for that sold half of his company, so he didn't have to deal with the union because I think the clock resets when you sell. But there, something like this, yeah, you know, but if it was a side deal, it might have been, I mean, again, devil's advocate here. If they did not report it, it's because they're franchisees and they didn't want to have to pay any kind of like royalty share or whatever to the on 200.
Well, I think the person before them, but here's the thing: if the stuff was in the store and they had the paperwork to prove it, they could just give them the stuff. They just wanted to keep the stuff. I mean, in my opinion, because if they had the paperwork, which clearly he has, because they slipped up more than once and said about his stuff in the store. Like, well, wait a minute, I thought there wasn't any stuff in the store, but they're not saying the stuff wasn't there. They're just saying no, franchise deals weren't.
Even if they don't believe there was a deal to save their business, give this man $200,000.
Yeah, but then the problem is, I mean, you have to have some kind of proof because then everybody and their dog can come in and say, "Oh, I consigned."
And I'm going to get Reckless Ben to come after. And he's in Mexico now. I guess he fled to Mexico. This whole thing is it's wild. I agree with his sentiment, but I'm kind of looking at the situation. I'm like, I don't know. Reckless Ben might get himself in trouble. He might get himself in trouble for this one because I think he was kind of going above and beyond. I mean, I think these guys are skeezy just based on what I've seen, but I think his YouTube antics might have crossed a line and he might actually get himself in trouble for that.
Well, he's obviously afraid of it or he wouldn't be leaving the country.
It wouldn't be in Mexico. Right. So Bricks and Minifigs CEO offers to compensate Lego Star Wars owner. Okay. So Ammon McNeff provided a statement regarding the resolution saying they finally have enough information and documentation.
Yeah. Okay. I don't believe that. You finally have the documentation. Like you didn't have, the guy didn't provide copies of it. We were looking through all the paper. We finally found it. How convenient.
Brian, we continue to offer to sit down with you and are prepared to discuss dropping the lawsuit against you.
Yeah, that's what we talked about earlier, yeah.
He's going to go through all available point-of-sale data to ensure he's made whole monetarily. That is legal jargon for how much money is it going to take to shut you up.
Well, no, we're going to be like, well, we think that we've already gotten paid for some of it, but you might have. And we have to go through the proof what, you have already gotten paid for and what you have left. That's standard.
Yeah, whatever Star Wars Lego was or remains in the Salem store, whether you identify it as yours or not, you can have it. We will ensure you're compensated for anything unaccounted for, including what Ms. Law Gorman failed to compensate you for without your knowledge. We're ready when you are. And apparently he had a really rare, I don't follow the Lego collection scene, but apparently he had a very, very rare, I think it was a Bespin set. That's worth just by itself, worth thousands of dollars because there weren't very many of them.
But is it still in the store? Because they're basically saying whatever's left in the store you can have.
Yeah, so all the shit that didn't sell, all the most valuable stuff went out the back door. Who knows? Who knows? This whole thing, I don't know. I think there's plenty of blame to go around. I think that the store itself is being kind of skeezy, but it's this whole thing just seems like it was not handled well from the start. And here we are. And this is like 3 years later, because he consigned his set back in 2023. And nobody would have heard anything about this whole situation had it not been for Reckless Ben getting involved. Because again, this is a 3-year-old situation. And I think it's going to cook their business. I think they're done.
Well, obviously it is. They wouldn't be doing this, but they said
right.
the post. They said that they went on to say that the Star Wars collection was about $100,000 because the initial figure was made up as promotional value from the previous owners.
Well, it's a resale store. So they're gonna double the price. They're gonna be like, oh yeah, that thing goes for what? How much money? Yeah, what's the maximum it sold for on eBay, and then add to that. How
it's like
bad
Pawn
do you want
Stars. It's worth $10,000. Oh, best I can do is $2,000.
Yeah, pretty much. Well,
like,
that's how this works. And it's the same with, comic shops and stuff too. And no offense to comic store owners or whatever, but the margins are really bad. This is why they deal in vintage stuff or hard to get stuff. And they jack it way the hell up, and they try to get their inventory as cheap as they can. They'll go buy like toy collections as cheap as they can, knowing they're massively underpaying for it and underpaying the person, but then they'll turn around and mark it up to whatever, the actual retail value is, or whatever they think people are going to pay. So you got to do what you got to do, especially, I don't know what the rents are in Salem, Oregon. They're probably pretty high. But anyway, up to June 4th. Okay, this is what they're saying. This is Bricks and Minifig. They said, following an internal investigation, BAM with external help discovered new evidence of negligence. 3 sets of books were maintained by Crystal, a personal email account, which she retained undisclosed access after leaving, was still connected to company data, and a POS record showing she significantly underreported sales to Brian. So they're saying that the franchisee that's no longer there underreported sales. They're saying it. I would like to see that.
The country too. So
well, I would like to see that. I would like to actually have them come in. You show me where she underreported, so I know you're not just making this shit up to try to save your business.
Well, that's what they're saying. They're bringing them in. I'm sorry, I get thinking about these people fleeing the country, and all I keep thinking about was one place that you worked. The CEO.
I was freelance there. Yeah.
The CEO. I'm not gonna say where it was or whatever, but got in trouble for something, and he left his secretary behind, and she took all the blame while he fled back home to his home country.
Oh, yeah, no. I'm not going to say what the company was, but yeah, I was only freelancing for them. What happened was the CEO maxed out the company cards. We're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars in expenses related to parties. Like there was like a $25,000 wine bill, and they busted him, and he fled the country. He was actually from France. He fled the country. He went back to France and left his secretary holding the bag because she actually had access to all that information. They were like, well, if you knew he was doing this, why didn't you do anything? And my understanding is he basically was, I knew she was like his right hand hench person. So he probably compensated her, but she went to prison for that.
And he fled to France.
And he fled to France. And as far as I know, he's still living the high life in France. But yeah, so this is a mess. And I don't know how it's going to end. I do think it's going to end with ultimately their business taking a massive hit. I would not be surprised if Bricks and Minifigs, at least that brand, is so damn tarnished that they go out of business within the next couple of years. I think that store owners, if they were smart, they would get out of their franchise deal and go independent. Just my opinion. I think
also,
it's
I would not consign your stuff. I would either go to an auction house or I would sell it yourself. I would not consign anything to any place like this because in this case they think that she was underreporting, and it could be, like I said, 2 things could be true at once. They could be like legitimately they're looking into it and they underreported. Even if you have the paperwork, they're starting to dig through the paperwork, which takes a while. I mean, I think they blew them off, but I think there's some truth on both sides. Yeah. I honestly do, but I think the way it was handled was so piss poor, and then it was magnified exponentially by a YouTuber who was also making piss poor decisions. So
I'm
entertaining.
That's the thing. It's entertainment.
Are you not entertained?
And people, when it comes to internet drama, sometimes they will pick like, well, what's entertaining versus what's actually legal. And I don't think Reckless Ben's a bad guy at all. I think, shining a light on this was.
He was the only one that would help, but yeah.
He's the only one that would help, but I'm also like, dude, you might have gotten yourself into a lot of trouble just because yeah. So I think what they're trying to do is de-escalate before it goes to court, because if it goes to court, I think it's going to be a massive shit show.
Well, I really hope that somebody buys the rights to do a documentary on this, I would love to see it, and I hope that they all get paid well for their stories. But yeah, bring out the documentary.
It's gonna be like that meme with that dude behind the tree rubbing his hands. That's Netflix right now.
Yeah,
like, oh, I can't wait.
I can't wait. See the documentary.
Bricked. I can just see it right now. 6 episodes, big promotional push. Oh yeah, it's gonna be huge. We gotta wrap it up.
Yes.
Please subscribe. We'll talk later.
Bye.